If you're running Facebook ads, you know the struggle, right? You are constantly inside of spreadsheets, looking at reporting, trying to make sense of all of the data that is coming out of the Facebook ad platform and trying to decide what's the next best thing to do. On top of all that, you're trying to keep up with the algorithm updates and keep making more ads. It just takes a lot of work to actually run ads well. So what if you could automate a lot of the heavy lifting? See, I built a media buyer that has taken over being the brains inside my ad account. It analyzes my data, tells me exactly what I need to change, tells me exactly what to do with my budget, and tells me exactly what ads to go make next. It has saved me a ton of time and mental bandwidth, and I'm going to show you exactly how I created it in this video right here. Really quick, if you don't know me already, my name is Brice, and over the last couple of years, I have managed millions of dollars in ad spend, mostly selling digital products and high-ticket courses. I have also become a giant nerd when it comes to keeping up with AI these days. So as I was spending hours inside of ad accounts every month, the obvious question became, how can I train AI to do this for me? And in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how I did it step by step. You're going to get the exact tools and the exact prompts that I'm using to let AI do most of the heavy lifting for the decision-making inside of my ad account. Let's jump into it. Okay, so just so you can kind of quickly see like what the outputs of this would actually look like. This is what the kind of report that would get every single week from our media buyer that's gone through, analyzed the account. It knows our KPIs, it knows our goals, it knows our brand, it knows our funnel, it knows our avatar, it knows everything. And so it's able to see, are we meeting our KPI targets? How are things trending inside of the account? What kind of creatives need to be developed? It could come up with new ideas for us. It could come up with budget allocation, and it could come up with ideas for the creative team to go out because we've trained this on knowing who are our avatars, what do they respond to, what are the ads that are doing best, and then how can we go out and do more of those? And so hopefully you can see like this is already just super powerful if we can get this ideas coming out from the AI so that we don't have to spend the mental energy and the time to do this. Now, if we're going to create an AI like this, the important thing is to understand, like, what do we need to do to train an AI to understand how to make really good decisions and be able to give us these kinds of outputs? And it's the same way you would think about training an employee, right? So if you hired a new media buyer at your team, what would they need to do? Well, they would need to understand your brand. They would need to understand your offers, your funnel structure, your products. They would really need to understand your avatars, what they respond to, what's the historical data inside the account. They'd also really need to understand, like, just how do you have the account set up, right? So like, what are the naming conventions? What does stuff mean? What are these different data points that are coming out of there? All of this needs to be fed into an AI before it can actually start to understand what's going on and make better decisions. And so that's where we get into this kind of like defining what are the inputs that we need, right? So we want to give it like the brand context. We want to give it like the campaign objectives. We want it to understand our target audience and who is our avatar, naming conventions inside the account, and then we want to give it like historical performance and trends. If we were hiring a new media buyer, we would expect them to understand all of this stuff before they can get into an account and start telling us good ideas and like giving us good feedback. Same thing with an AI. And so to actually set up an automated tool that can give us this data and be able to pull this and just feed this to AI on a regular basis, the tool that I'm using is called Supermetrics. I've got another video that'll probably come up here in the corner on like how we use Supermetrics to automate all of our Facebook ad reporting. But this tool is just so amazing. I have used this for I don't know how many years, and it's one of the best tools that we use because it allows us to automate all of the data that we're collecting from our campaigns, from our funnels, all of that stuff, pull it into a spreadsheet, and then this is what we can use to send it to AI so it can start to make these kinds of analysis. So now what you see on my screen here is like, this is an example of an actual spreadsheet that we would use to pull this data. And so what you're looking at is like, the first thing we're doing is we're pulling account data. We've got it broken down by week so we can see trends. And basically what we've done is we've mapped out the funnel. We've looked at all of the important stats that we would need to track over time. And then we've looked at like, what is the source of those stats so that we can also make sure that we have like the most useful truth. Because of course, if you're running ads, you probably know like the Facebook pixel is a terrible thing to use for reporting on like what's actually happening off the ad platform. Everything on the ad platform, Facebook is great with that stuff, but we want to get past that and have really good data on like what's actually happening once people get into our funnels, start going through our applications, booking calls, buying products, all this stuff. And just relying on the Facebook pixel is not very helpful for that. So kind of down here in the corner, you can see like I've got tabs that are pulling from every source of data that would be the most useful truth for that actual metric that we're trying to pull. So like for actual leads, for actual sales, for actually revenue generated, we're looking at Kajabi because that's the course platform that we use. For actual applications, like how many applications have we actually filled out, we're looking at Typeform. For Calendly, we're actually looking at like how many calls have been booked on the calendar using Calendly. And then Facebook, we're getting all the data there. And so for Facebook, This is where we're using a supermetric import to just pull all of the data and put that into the spreadsheet. So when you sign up for Supermetrics, and I've got a link down below you can use to grab that. So if you sign up for Supermetrics, what you'll see is like you can launch this little sidebar. And this is basically a tool that's going to let you pull whatever you want, and it's going to let you store this into the spreadsheet. And then it's going to let you set this up on any recurring basis you want. So like I have a report like this that's built that refreshes every single day. And again, check out this video up here in the corner if you want to get like deep into how I set these up. But all the dashboards that we use for me and for my clients are all built with Supermetrics and Zapier, basically. I'll show you how this works. But so what I can do is I can choose the date. So what I always like to do is just whenever we started the campaign is the start date. I always put yesterday, so we just have one full day of data there. So you can see for the metrics, like we're just pulling all the data that we need: amount spent, reach, impressions, link clicks, website leads, website registrations, purchases, calls, applications, anything that you have coming into the Facebook ad platform. We can export that. We can pull that here. And then you can see we've just got it sorted by day. So what we're pulling is every single day's worth of data. All of this is coming straight from the ad platform. We're just using Supermetrics to pull this into this spreadsheet so we can build this nice little table and make it useful so that we can feed it to the AI tool. Now, once we have all of our Supermetrics queries all set up, the really cool thing we can do is just come up here and set up an automatic refresh. So we can just schedule this to refresh every single day. I like to have this refresh every single day early in the morning so that if I come to my computer and I look at this report, I've got the most useful and the most up-to-date data. For Calendly, what we're actually doing is just using a Zap here, where it's just like anytime we get a new call booked, we just format that, we send it to Slack channels, and then we save it in this spreadsheet and we send it to Kajabi so we can track all of that stuff that's happening there. What we end up getting is this spreadsheet that actually has all of the data from these people who are booking calls. We can do an analysis of like where they came from, UTM codes, we have all of that stuff. And then we're able to count the number of people who are booking calls every day. Very similar with Typeform. So we use Typeform as an application. We've just found that we get a better quality of calls when we actually have someone go through the questions first and then book a call. And so here what we've got is just all of that data. Typeform just has a native integration with Google Sheets, so you can just send this data over. Again, we're saving this so that what we can do is count how many people fill out an application every day. And then again, since Kajabi is our CRM, we're just pulling all the leads, all the purchases, all the revenue, everything into the spreadsheet so that what we do is we have a spreadsheet with all of this data from the best data source. And so all of that just creates this one nice sheet where what we're doing is we're just pulling all of this data and we're mapping out our funnel week by week so that when we go to the AI tools, we're just giving it this data and it can analyze all these trends based on the most accurate source of the data. The other thing I've got here is two different Supermetrics queries where we're just pulling the last 4 weeks of data. We're breaking it down by week and by campaign name. And so we've got the actual campaign names with all the stats that we're getting from the campaign from the ad platform there. And then we've got all of the creative data. So we have the creative data and we're bringing that again down week by week. And so like all these data tabs are just what we're doing to just collect all this data. And then that's being pushed into this account data. So the account data, the campaign data, and the creative data are the 3 things that we need to give to the AI so that every week what it can do is it can look at what are the last 4 weeks and start to analyze these trends. So that's how we get the data ready so that we can actually give it to our little AI media buyer and it can actually start to make decisions with it. The cool thing is you only have to set that up once. And then once you have all of these automations set up and in place, they just run automatically. So after you set up your data pipeline and we've got all the data that we need in one spreadsheet so that we can actually just feed that to the AI media buyer, the next thing we need is at least some kind of document that's going to train the media buyer on what it needs to know about this brand and this account. So once you've got that data pipeline set up, you've got all the reports that you need to just have an automated file of what's going on inside the account. The next thing we need to do is we need to actually train this new media buyer on like what it needs to know about this specific brand and this specific account in order to be able to understand what that data means. And so that's where I came up with this document. So what this document does is this document is just training it on like, who is the brand? What is their core offer? What is the funnel structure? What are their primary objectives? What are their KPIs, secondary goals, avatars, targeting? What did they need to know about that avatar? We'll also give it some other avatar information in other documents. So that's good there. And then really important, like naming conventions inside the ad account. So like you're giving it all this data from Supermetrics that are the campaign data and the creative data and all that stuff. But how does it actually make sense of that? And so we can actually break down like what are the naming conventions inside the account. Now, the next thing we need to actually do is set up our AI media buyer and an AI tool. And so I played around with different tools. I tried ChatGPT for this. I tried Claude for this. Claude is the one that I found was actually the best. So when you log into Claude, you can see on the side here, there's this thing called projects. And if we go to projects and we create a new project, this is going to allow us to create something that is basically going to be like a trained AI tool that has a knowledge base. And that's what we want. Then what we're going to need is we're going to need the actual prompt to start this thing off. And then we're going to need the right knowledge in the knowledge base so that it knows how to be a good media buyer and it knows about our brand so that it can make good decisions for us. Now, this is the prompt that I've been using to get this done. So under project instructions, I'm just telling it, it's a senior media buyer. It works for our brand. This is its job. From its knowledge base, it has all this information and then its job each week, and then the rules, and then the output that we want. Now, outside of that, again, what we need to be able to do is to actually train it on our brand, our KPIs, our funnel, all of that stuff. We needed to know about our avatars, our tone of voice, what is the things that our audience best responds to, and what are all our offers. If you're not totally sure how to set all that up, I've got a link down in the description below to a little workshop where I can show you how to get all that stuff set up. But what we're going to do is just upload this to the knowledge base. And then now we have all of the stuff that we need here to be able to get started and actually get a good analysis going. Now, here's the one trick to solve the one big road bump that I kept running into when I was trying to do this originally, which is most AI tools don't actually read CSV files unless you instruct them to. So when you give a CSV file to a lot of these tools and you say, read this CSV file, what it actually does is it reads what is the data of the file. So that's looking at the title, the meta description. So looking at the actual data of the file and not what's inside the file. And so that's where I found Claude to be really useful, is because with Claude, we can instruct it to actually write the code that it needs to open up the file and give us good data. And so that's why I ended up going with Claude as the tool that I use for this, is because with Claude, we can actually prompt Claude to write the code that it needs to open up and read the data inside the file so that it can start to make good decisions and good analysis. So if you made it this far, we've got a data pipeline set up so we can actually track and store the data over time and feed that to the AI. We've got a document to actually train the AI media buyer on what is this specific brand and what is this specific account all about. And then we've set up these project instructions so that we've actually trained it on what is its role, and we've given it everything it needs here in this knowledge base. So let's say we just need to do is just prompt the AI to get this tool going, and then also feed it the data from the supermetric exports. And so this is the prompt that I've been using to use this. The really important one here is down here at the very end, where it says, first, write any code you need to be able to properly analyze the data inside the CSV files. So this is really important so that it actually reads what's inside the file and not reads the data of the file, if that makes sense. And then just to get this data, we just come to these 3 tabs, which are always going to be updated because we set up our supermetrics to automatically refresh every day. We're going to download these 3 CSV files. We're just going to upload them here to go along with the prompt and then submit that into the new AI media buyer. This is exactly what we want to see, right? Where we can see the AI is writing the code that it needs to actually make sense of this data. And then this is what we're going to get out of it. It's going to shoot us out one of these reports where it's looking at the KPIs, it's looking at the trends, it's looking at the creative fatigue, it's looking at everything we would need to do inside this account to start making decisions. And this has been super helpful. 1, just in terms of time, and 2, just in terms of mental bandwidth. Because when we automate this report and we're just looking at this every week, it starts to give us insights that we might have missed, and it starts us to help make decisions quicker. So we can spend our time doing what's more important, which is going and doing creatives, than it is actually just sitting in there trying to decide which budget we need to tweak, which ads have creative fatigue and all that stuff. At the end of the day, it just helps us spend less time in spreadsheets and more time taking action. So that's it. Hopefully you found this useful. If you want to get some resources about how to run Facebook ads, I've got that down just in the description below. Other than that, please subscribe. Of course, that really helps me continue to make more videos like this one on this channel. I've also probably got some videos popping up here on the screen with some other video suggestions if you want to check out some more stuff from this channel. I hope this was helpful, and I hope to catch you in another video here soon. Have a good one.